Yeah, I'm a little bit late. Sorry, guys. Welcome to Danger Room. I was not even positive I was going to stream today. I thought I was too busy with work, but then stuff got switched around, and here I am. I don't need to make any excuses. I'm just here to have some fun. So nobody's on board right now. Hopefully somebody will pick up and check out this thing because I got a few things to talk about. One of the things is, well, let's share a little video with y'all, okay? Stand by. Okay.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Right?
Yeah, it's a Joe Rogan Experience video. Let me see. Let me share my screen. Tab. Do not share the audio, though. Here we go.
And then who did Doonesbury?
That's like the political one, right?
Trudeau?
It's still,
is that his name?
Maybe. Yeah.
What the fuck? Who the fuck is it? Trudeau? What's his first name? Gary Trudeau. Isn't that, what's the name of the guy who runs Canada? Justin.
PL.
That guy.
Yeah, I never got Doonesbury. I never.
you hear this?
It was
Okay.
like too clever. I was like, okay, they're like, I guess they're taking down Ronald Reagan or something, but I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Doonesbury's weird too because they pigeonholed Hunter S. Thompson and turned him into this. They had a character that they were doing. I think he wound up suing them. Yeah, there's his character. It's basically the exact same guy, just slightly different. And he was always like shooting off guns and doing a bunch of crazy shit. I forget his name. I forget the name of the guy. They gave him a different name, like Uncle something or another.
Yeah.
Uncle Duke,
But
dummy.
that was that was Gary Trudeau's take on Hunter S. Thompson, and it wound up driving Hunter S. Thompson nuts. Is this still real? He's still doing, he's doing Trump? That's 2017.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I
No
think he's still
kidding.
around.
Wow. Yeah, but he
Hey, out there in chat land, you guys are hearing the audio of this, okay? Somebody shout if you're hearing me hearing the audio. Okay, I think you are.
So he created this character that was basically the most exaggerated versions of Hunter S. Thompson when Hunter S. Thompson was fucking around. And it sort of defined who Hunter S. Thompson was to a lot of people. Because instead of being this brilliant journalist who, this great writer, he also became this kind of like guy who just shoots guns and is always drunk.
Yeah.
And then you fall into that trap. I think comedians that have a persona.
And it's not all echoey, hopefully. This is I was working all morning trying to figure this out. That's why I'm a few minutes late on the stream.
Like oftentimes fall, Dice, that's not, his real name is Andrew Silverstein.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dice character was a part of his act. He had
Anyway, I thought it was pretty interesting. He was talking about Doonesbury and Uncle Duke, and it made me start thinking about that for a second. So why don't we take a look at, what are we going to take a look at? Oh, yeah, the $1 million comic scam. Let's see. We need this up here like this. And let's take a look at some Doonesbury, and then we're also going to take a look at Emperor Doom. Emperor Doom. Definitely more so than Hunter S. Thompson probably was, PL, although he was a crazy gun nut, and I would paint Thompson in a pretty libertarian, or at least libertine kind of mode. And oh man, I forgot. I've had this sitting here forever. I looked up when I saw this video, the Rogan video, and it made me think of Uncle Duke, and it made me think of Doonesbury, and it made me think that that's one of the comics I want to talk about. Not always, not just into comic books. I really do love comic strips. And I really feel like Doonesbury is one of those ones that just doesn't get enough shine in general. As far as its quality as a comic strip, right? A lot of people at the time in the 70s, especially when it was first coming out, would like make fun of it. Like the cartoonists like Al Cap and stuff would make fun of it just being like 3 pictures of the White House and some dialogue over and over again. And there's a lot of strips like that. A lot of other people really just view it as something other than a comic strip, like it's as being something that's purely about politics. But it really is a comic strip that aged in real time over many decades in the vein of like a Gasoline Alley. Peerless. Yeah. I see. Loved Doonesbury and Bloom County as a kid, even if it went over my head. I liked the art. That's the thing. In my newspaper, there was the San Jose Mercury News had a really great double page spread of comics every day. You got 2 full pages of comics. But then Doonesbury was like on a separate page, sort of in editorial land, nearby, near the comic section, but not right there. So it was kind of viewed as something other. And I would read it and I wouldn't really understand it necessarily. It wasn't until I kept seeing these collections in used bookstores a lot. I proudly use bookstores, and I'm always looking for comic strip collections. I also love Bloom County, which was sometimes accused of stealing some beats from Doonesbury as far as writing is concerned. But the thing I love about Doonesbury, like I said, that's overlooked, is the saga-like nature of the story. We're going to get back to Emperor Doom after we talk about Doonesbury for a little bit. And when I mean the saga, we've got characters that start as literally as infants that we see grow up to be to marry characters that were adults. When we started the strip, we see it go through a lot of world events in real time as they were happening, sort of as the news unfolded. But it really took just a funny, personal approach to it. This was all about the characters. There's so much character, and Uncle Duke is just one of the cool characters that would sometimes take over because he was so colorful and over the top. Like they would make him he was the ambassador, I think, to Samoa in this one, in this little sequence that would go over several weeks. And that's the thing. Doonesbury would switch back and forth between this huge cast of characters, and he could use that and put those people in different roles in society and explore the news and different events. Sure, there were strips like this where it's just Mike sitting in front of the TV set. Let me see if I can zoom in. No, I can't. This will look better on a big screen than it will here. But the gags were always funny. There's always just like a silliness and a rhythm to the dialogue that is absolutely worth exploring. They tried to do some animated. I was just watching an animated Doonesbury thing. And actually, I believe that is what led me to the Rogan thing. Was I was looking for Doonesbury, the Doonesbury cartoon. Nah, I don't have that. You can look it up. It's all available on YouTube, and it's okay. They take some of the funnier strips, like with Zonker and the football team and the stuff of that era, and they turn them into some reasonably fun gags on TV. But it really doesn't do justice to like the comic timing of the writing of Doonesbury and the drawing, not to mention breaking down topics, you know, of current politics through a pretty liberal lens, especially for the time, and trying to present sort of what was thought of as the counterculture experience. He was really a hippie who grew up to be a yuppie, just like the Mike Doonesbury character. Like, if you see the Mike Doonesbury character today, he's an older dude who runs a software company, and he's got his young Asian wife. Well, his young Asian wife was born in the pages of the comic. It was a refugee, a Vietnamese refugee, adopted, and there was a series of strips about her first word being like Big Mac and adjusting good commercialism in America and the abundance of food and stuff. All very funny stuff, like as funny as comic strips really get, to be honest. Because, like, let's be real, folks. I've often said this about comic strip, is that strips, even the funniest comic strip, like the funniest. What's the funniest comic strip? Let's say it's The Far Side, okay? Even at its best, it's going to make you like chuckle, maybe chuckle out loud a little bit, right? Like, oh, you bears or cows or whatever he's talking about that day. And, you know, Calvin and Hobbes, clever, funny, well-drawn. I loved it. I eat it up. Don't get me wrong. I love comic strips, like I said, but they don't have that much space to be really funny. Doonesbury pulls it off by just spreading his stuff out. He has to break them down into strips. It's a gag a day strip, so there's like a punchline every day kind of thing. Like, it's a setup and a punchline. But by the time you get through a couple weeks worth of stuff, some action has unfolded, some plot has come out, and some and lots of jokes and character bits have happened. Guys like Jimmy Thudpucker, the folk musician at the time, and who sort of just like is a parody of the music industry. Oh man, some of the early first gay characters introduced to the mainstream comic strips. I'm not sure if he was the first or not. This is a character that was just sort of like another lawyer that the Joni character was studying with and really kind of had a crush on, but turns out to be gay. And they talk about this. This is in the comic strips, man, in the 70s. This is not something that was in an underground head shop or whatever, or in a comic shop or buried away. This was stuff in the newspaper on a day-to-day basis, and there was controversy about it. Many times Doonesbury would get pulled. I don't think it was pulled over that gay content, usually over drug content. There was some stuff. The strips with Zonker talking with kids about and bringing up hashish. It's all in here. This book is so available. Doonesbury's Greatest Hits, a mid-70s review. It's one of those big compilation things. And what's nice is you get some color plates in here for the Sundays. And so you don't get everything in the exact order that it would have come out in, but you get kind of the best of at telling these stories. The Sunday strips are always a gas. He goes outside of usually what's going on in the weekday strip and does just a more elaborate kind of a gag strip. Doonesbury doesn't get a lot of credit for being a good artist, but he really sells the humor and the emotions of the characters really well, and he's just a terrific writer. Now, I know over the years he started to use assistants and stuff. And even more recently, he kind of like left the comics for a few years to do, I think it was a show on Yahoo TV or something, like a political show. It had John Goodman on it, and it was based on the real story of these, it might have been Republicans, might have been Democrats, I forget, like 3 senators or congressmen that lived together in Washington, D.C. and like shared an apartment. And like he's like, he had been doing Doonesbury for maybe 40 years at that point. And he's like, I'm going to take a break and see where this thing goes. And has since come back on a more intermittent basis. I'll be honest, I don't read it every day, even though it's available, but every time I go back to it, I enjoy it. I think I much prefer. The reason is that I much prefer it in these really big chunks, like reading it in the collected volumes. And that's one thing that Doonesbury was great about. Trudeau was great about, was keeping those Doonesbury trade paperbacks coming out. It had a really cool format. That wasn't too long. Would have like maybe a year's worth of strips in it or something like that at a pretty reasonable price. This was a nice way to break it down, though. I would recommend one of these oversized volumes because you even get a little act breaks and, you know, talking about the characters that are going to star in these different scenes. This is 1976 we're into here, the year of the dragon. A lot of stuff in China as Duke, Ambassador Duke. Got transferred to become the ambassador to China. So, like, really interesting time politically. To this day, you know, our relationship with China is so wild and bizarre, and you've never seen a weirder version of it here, as when Duke, I think he slips acid into the punch bowl at a state dinner, and there's just some funny moments that go on. Man, I really miss reading these things. That's the other thing. It bears going back and rereading. It really reads more like a graphic novel, albeit the pacing is like gag a day strip, but very rereadable. And look at stuff like this. Like, he'll do interesting. This is there in China on the Great Wall. They'll do interesting interior shots and exterior shots. He really did try to mix it up. It wasn't just talking heads looking at the TV. He would trying to push his art form as far as it could go, with given the very limited amount of size given to comic strips. And it's only worse today. Like, this would be a luxury if comic strips were this big. Today, there may be half the size sometimes. Or like maybe 2/3 of the size. Ranger Doom's Danger Room. Yeah, that's me. Ranger Doom. Oh, I like that. I never thought of that before. I like that, Sam. Tony. Yeah, dude. Yes, you see them a lot. Pick one up and read it. The big ones like this. You won't regret it. Honestly, from a storytelling standpoint, there's stuff to learn. And from a joke standpoint and just setting up punchlines and jokes, he's a master of his craft. As funny as you can be in a comic strip, I think Doonesbury has been on a consistent basis. Maybe, is it because I'm a nerd? Yeah, probably. Whatever. So is your uncle. You definitely, yeah, the gags. I just remember so many great gags, talking about so many great. Okay, here we go. Here's the early stuff with Kim, that character that I was talking about. This baby, she feels a new word coming on, Cincinnati. And this, yeah, she's all her first words are all food, Big Mac, burger, coleslaw, and stuff she saw on TV and commercials. It's just a nice little thing. But this character grows up to marry the titular character, Mike Doonesbury. That always blew my mind that it ages in real time. So it's like in that tradition of, like I said, Gasoline Alley, and I don't know what other strips aged in real time. I don't know. Yeah. What also one of those only strips that would be obviously topical to the moment. Yes, true. And so I think sometimes that's why people go like, I wouldn't care about that stuff, but honestly, you can know nothing about history and nothing about government or politics at all and read this and you'll just laugh because the characters are funny. What they're doing is funny. It's very satirical. So the characters are over the top, goofy parodies. And the stuff with Duke, you will love the stuff with Duke because of how much drugs and alcohol he does and all the crazy shenanigans he gets into. So you love it from a counterculture, Freak Brothers style perspective. And there's a lot of Duke in this volume. I recommend it. Oh man, this is a yeah, I forgot about this. This is part of a long sequence where Zonker talks about his old his ancestor Nate Harris, who just sort of forgot to tell his slaves that they were free for a while. He just sort of like took him a little extra time. He sort of like let him figure it out gradually. And he's not shying away from any controversial topics and makes it super funny. This stuff, yeah, I forgot about this stuff with Nate Harris. And so Duke's sidekick, Honey. I don't know if anybody ever discussed it. She really is Marcy from Peanuts grown up. I don't know what other reference she has. She's supposed to be Chinese, but she never looked particularly Chinese. And she always calls him sir. And it was just like Marcy always called Peppermint Patty sir. So I always saw it as a direct homage to Peanuts. Yeah, some of the great stuff with the football team and characters like this, like BD, the old quarterback, right? From the very earliest strips. It was all about BD, who was the sort of conservative jock roommate to Mike Doonesbury. And then their super crazy buddy Zonker. Zonker's on the football team too. What's really cool about BD is as a character, you see him go through a lot of stuff. He goes to the Vietnam War, he comes back, and then he, like Trudeau, became a real advocate for like soldiers returning from war. And so BD's character became a representative of that. And really helped out a lot of people. Went to the Iraq War and helped a lot of Iraq War veterans and stuff. When I was a kid, I always hated it because it felt like it was for boring adults. I'm a boring adult now, so maybe I should revisit it. I think you should. I think you'll regret that you didn't maybe read it at the time. Because like I said, you can read it at multiple levels, and that's kind of what I think is genius about Doonesbury. That doesn't get talked about. Come on, folks. When's the last time you saw your comic book shows talking about Doonesbury compilations? Does that sound the bottom of the barrel being scraped? No, it's actually not. It's the cream of the cream being skimmed from the top because Doonesbury is top-notch stuff. Along the way, are you going to get a little lesson in U.S. history and politics? Honestly, not that much, but a little bit. And if you're into that stuff, though, and understand the context even a little bit or thoroughly, then this stuff becomes even funnier. Here we go into Act 3, 1977, early disco. Oh, yeah, they do stuff. So Duke is a columnist for Rolling Stone, just like Hunter S. Thompson was. And so Jan Wenner, the, I guess, editor-in-chief of Rolling Stone, is just a character in here. And it's sort of, there's a lot of interplay between Jan, whatever. If you even know who that is, you're old. If you know that name. Not sure what a cultural force Jan Wenner is to this day. Although Rolling Stone still actually did some pretty cool journalism. I really liked, not to get too far off topic, but I really liked when they had the stuff Matt Taibbi did there. I like that dude, Matt Taibbi. That probably doesn't surprise you if you understand, if you've listened to me before and know my politics at all. Yeah, great. More stuff with Nate Harris. The more hilarious stuff with Duke on the Great Wall of China. Yeah, a lot of good stuff about civil rights, about politics. When Ginny Slade runs for Congress and loses, as I remember, she gives up she gives up in the race so that Lacey Thompson, a longtime Democrat, like matriarch character, can run. And so these are, and then she comes back to work for her campaign. So you see a bunch of different like political and social archetypes play out in Doonesbury. Lots of gags, lots of great stuff. Visually, design-wise, there's a lot of really interesting stuff out there too by Trudeau. He's more interesting than you think, I think. Okay. What else am I going to talk about? All right, I have one other comic I brought in. I was looking at my shelves. And I'm like, man, that's a comic that's kind of hard to find. You don't hear talked about very much these days. Emperor Doom by David Miccellini and Bob Hall. Bob Hall? Yeah, Bob Hall. I was going like, what's Bob Hall? His name didn't spring to mind. And then I looked him up. Oh yeah, I was a big West Coast Avengers fan, and he did the early stuff. He was the co-creator of the West Coast Avengers. This book has two of my favorite villains. It really does involve the entire Marvel universe. And you know, of course, besides Dr. Doom, spoiler alert, he's on the cover. The other clue about who that other villain is maybe only the background color here. And if you open it up, okay, Emperor Doom starring the Mighty Avengers by David Miccellini. Concept by Mark Grunwald, David Miccellini, and Jim Shooter. Yeah, Tony. Yeah, this is right. This is right in your wheelhouse, Tony. This one's for you, buddy. Bob Hall, artist, with an inking assist from Keith Williams. That's a weird way to put it. Does that mean he didn't ink it all? He just did some of the inking? I don't know what an inking assist. I've never seen that. Bill Oakley letterer, Ken Lopez logo design. Okay, Ken, it's cool. Jim, I wanted to call it Purple Rain Salicrup, is the editor. That's another clue on who the other villain is, who's one of my favorites. Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief, and this story takes place before West Coast Avengers #1. It's critical for you continuity buffs out there. I assisted for a long time. If you're on Facebook, you have to like somehow permit StreamYard to use your name if you want to see your name on here, or you can just go right to YouTube, and I get better metrics on YouTube if you go to YouTube and chat on there. Anyway, here's a list of other graphic novels from Marvel and Epic Comics. These are all the ones that were done in this weirdo kind of oversized format. It's actually, now that I think about it, is it exactly the same? No, it's real close to the trim size of this Doonesbury's Greatest Hits. Okay, that makes total sense. That's cool that he got credit. Oh, Mick Gray, and he would know this is from Mick Gray, friend of the show, inker to the Comic Book Stars. Thanks, Mick. So, I love that real time. This is why I like streaming, and this is why I'm glad I'm streaming again. I'm just going to get into just sort of streaming. And, and Mick says he inked Bob Hall too. Of course you did, Mick. What, on Chase #5? Okay. I think he's good. He's not a name that springs right to mind as a guy, but this book always springs to mind as one of my favorite of all time. My favorites of all time. Let's go into Emperor Doom. I didn't spoil it yet, but we get spoiled right on the first page, actually. Because we get to see, spoiler alert, the Purple Man, another one of my all-time favorite villains. And there's some really weird continuity stuff in here. Is this book truly in Marvel continuity or not? Hard to say when you see what unfolds. There will be spoilers, folks. Okay. This is Emperor Doom, 1987. And it's a list of the other graphic novels that were put out in this sort of wide, oversized format. Really thin, but oversized, and with a cover price of $5.95, folks. $6 for this thing. And really is a nice thing. Man, all the ones listed here. I have some of them. Maybe I'll bring some of these other ones on. I have this one, Death of Captain Marvel, the one at the top. That's a classic. Elric, Dreadstar, the New Mutants, the X-Men, Star Slammers, Kill Ravens, Super Boxers. I'm not too familiar with. Futurians, I am. Heartburst by our friend of the show, Rick Veitch. Futurians by Dave Cochran. I got to check that out. Cochran's awesome. Dazzler the movie by Jim Shooter. Wow, Frank Springer and Vince Colletta. They got Colletta. I really want to see. I don't think I've read that. The Aladdin Effect. I remember that one. Another Jim Shooter jam. Revenge of the Living Monolith. David Miccellini. I don't have that one, but I love Miccellini, man. He was the writer on Amazing Spider-Man when McFarlane did his run. Did a lot of cool stuff. I remember seeing Futurians. That's Tony too. Thanks for doing it on YouTube, Tony. Yeah, no, I remember Futurians, but I don't have it, and I don't remember the story. I just remember seeing it. I don't think I ever bought it. Shame on me. Okay. So right off the bat, we start with the Purple Man. He's just sort of doing his Purple Man thing, right? He's got pheromones. It's firmly established in this book that the Purple Man's powers are pheromone-based in nature. And then we see the kidnapping of the Purple Man. By who? We could kind of guess, right? Somebody who's able to resist the Purple Man's irresistible thing, right? That's what he does. The Purple Man's power is so great because it's so simple. You do what he says. That's it. And Bendis went on, of course, to take that character. They name him as Zebediah Kilgrave right here. So he's often called just Kilgrave in a lot of other places. Like I think in the Alias TV series, he was just called Kilgrave. Correct me if I'm wrong out there, fans. So a lot more expository thought balloons and bubbles and stuff, but we'll forgive him. Miccellini's a pretty good writer, so it's not overly purple prose. Forgive the pun. And then we find out who our mystery man is, and it's really almost a throwback to those early Namor reappearances in Avengers where he was like just a bum walking on the streets. But here he is, and he comes into the restaurant, and Dr. Doom just like blasts his clothes off. Who would dare to do this to Namor? And bottom line is he tricks Namor into wearing this psycho prism thing. It's powered by a single strand of hair from the Purple Man. He says that's what he's using rather to in order to control all these people. In reality, what's going on here is Doom is going through and tracking down all of the people on Earth. This has got to be Mick too. Yeah. Oh yeah, Alien Legion too. That was a great. I'll have to bring Alien Legion in someday. So in reality, what he's doing is tracking down anybody who he thinks will be immune, essentially, to the Purple Man's power. And what he's going to do is actually he's going to enlist Namor to do this, and he gives him this thing ostensibly to help him do it, but in reality, well, we'll find out. And then we get to who is the real hero of this thing, Yeah, I agree. Impossible flat top. Fantastic flat top. It's really a West Coast Avengers thing, right? So Bob Hall was the co-creator of the West Coast Avengers. He had all these characters in mind. And so this takes place before West Coast Avengers #1, mind you. But we got Avengers out west. And we got, so Simon Williams, Wonder Man, his whole thing is like they're able to make movies more realistically because they could use real explosives because he's so invulnerable thanks to whatever, his ionic energy, blah, blah, blah. Nice setup for what Wonder Man is. For those of us, for people who don't really know Wonder Man, like who knows Wonder Man? Wonder Man is the star of this thing. He really gets to shine in this book. It's cool. Technically, Doom's the star, I guess, but Wonder Man makes an excellent protagonist. And okay, so they're going to study his ionic energy, and they put him in a thingamajig. They put him in a science coffin. Maybe that's what happened. And then, meanwhile, Namor's going out and finding dudes like the Vision, a synthoid who I guess would not be affected by the Purple Man's powers, and slapping these things on him. Basically, he's going around looking for robots. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Purple Man's getting built into this gigundo thingamajiggy. And we get to see sort of the Avengers getting hip to what's happening. Meanwhile, we go after Machine Man. This was one of my... As a kid, I remember this being a pretty early exposure to Machine Man. I'm like, who's that? I thought he was pretty cool. This is the classic, like, Gears Garvin Machine Man. This is Kirby's Machine Man. And was this before or after the Barry Windsor Smith miniseries? I'm guessing it was just before. I have the miniseries here. Or we'll look at that sometime too, because that thing is worth looking at. That is a fun book that I really loved. Yeah, great stuff as they figure out its doom, and they start heading towards Doom Island. All right. We get a lot of great superhero action. Everything's happening. But you know what? They fail in their mission. The Avengers fail. And the Purple Man effect beam spreads over the globe. Instantaneously, the UN, instantaneously, the Avengers are all like, whoa, what's going on? They're pro-Doom. That's all it took for the entire world to get warped to Doom's will. And so the United Nations unanimously just hands control of the world to Dr. Doom. And this is when Namor is like, oh, now it's time. I'm supposed to have the 7 Cs. And we figure out that gem that he gave him is actually an amplifier, right? To get through Namor's incredible willpower. Which is pretty cool. Namor is cool, man. I really can't wait to see Namor in a Marvel Universe movie, and I just hope they just do it speedo and all, right? Like Namor is that guy who goes toe to toe with the Avengers or the FF or whoever, toe to toe, just wearing nothing. Hey, that's pretty tough. Sometimes he puts that weird vest thing on or whatever, but like he didn't need it. That was strictly for style. Anyway, the reign of Doom continues. Doomstadt expands throughout the world. Nuclear missiles are dismantled, and new technology is brought to bear on the crops, and everything is great under Doom. Doom is actually a fantastic leader. this book is explicitly like pro-fascist in the sense that it's like, whoa, yeah, if one person could just control everything and that person was a very good person, then the world will be great. Doesn't work that way. So now Wonder Man wakes up from his bath. And now this is where I guess I'm a little confused, because I think he was just naturally immune. And he's just in the bath so that he wasn't with the Avengers when they attacked Doom. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on, because otherwise the effect would be able to affect him after. And I don't think it can. We get a little sexy action with Tigra going on here. That's good fun. Oh, anybody see Tigra in Chip and Dale? I only watched the first half because it was a little too intense for one of my kids. Ironically, the older kid. Okay, so then we see that once they realize Wonder Man's not on the same page with them, he's persona non grata, and he has to make his escape. And like everybody out there now, the whole world knows that Wonder Man is not on the same page as them. So he has to literally go underground as he gets mobbed by a bunch of people and digs his way into the sewer. Luckily, with his Hollywood skills, he can figure out how to like kind of disguise himself. Okay, now we see the White House being guarded by like the Hulk and Luke Cage. I love these little just background cameos. Like just everybody's all in for Doom. Yeah, and as Wonder Man goes underground, he meets a conveniently kind-hearted blind person. Yeah, Mr. Natural. I saw Mr. Natural for sure, and I really, really wonder if Robert Crumb even gave his permission, let alone got anything from that. Rescue Rangers movie was great. I cracked up seeing Tiger in the movie. Shame the cartoon she was from was really bad. I think that was actually kind of the fun of it too, in that they preserved the crappy animation style. As an animation kind of dork, I really like that movie. I think it's a good movie for adults too. It was funny. It was making me laugh. I just don't think it's a good kids movie. Like most, the jokes would be over most kids' heads, and it is the situations they put them in are a little scary, at least for like my kids who really love and enjoy like Donald Duck and Chip and Dale cartoons, and then to expect them to want to watch this, it won't work. Probably more my fault than anybody else's. It is rated PG. Okay. Wonder Man. So he hooks up with the blind chick. This is great because she won't figure it out. And he gets access to some data, and he figures out what's going on, and he makes a plan to snap Cap out of this whole thing. And it turns out that I guess if you got enough willpower and you're shown enough pictures on TV in your face, like you can snap out of it. So they snap Cap out. And so slowly but surely they're going to do the same thing, and they're going to get the Avengers back on their side, because I guess Wonder Man on his own just couldn't handle it. I would have liked to have seen him try. So they they're going to figure it all out. They're going to mount their attack on Doom. More great stuff. Nice battle scenes. Oh, nice 80s Iron Man, West Coast Avengers era armor with the shoulder pads. So 80s. Got to love that. Pretty cool Doom tank design by Hall. You could have went with something more straightforward, but he went all out. Good for you. All right. Oh yeah, this part I really like. And so then they're getting in there and they break the jewel thing on Namor, trying to snap him out, and it's not working. And then finally, luckily, there's a humongous tank of water right there, and the water is able to bring Namor back, and he's able to remember who he is, and that he's getting punked by Doom. And then here's where it's great. So Doom was prepared for this, right? He had hoped to avoid using the nerve gas canister set around the Prism Lab. Namor was such an exemplary servant. So he's got nerve gas ready to go and just kill them all. He can end this thing with a push of a button. When he starts getting nagged by people about like, can you help us with our crop problems and our blah, 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 blah. And he's like, it's kind of a drag, and he just gives it all up. He hesitates. He doesn't push the button and says perhaps it will be wiser to let fate decide. So pretty cool in the sense that he had it all. He had the world, was in his grasp, and it was a choice to let it go. That's such a Doctor Doom type thing. That's one of the reasons why Doctor Doom is so great, is that you kind of like almost root for him, especially in this book, because he was doing the right thing. He was a positive influence on the world. But Namor's having none of that. Smashes it immediately. The world goes right back into apartheid, kicks right back into gear. I don't know what got into me. Imagine allowing coloreds to stay here, it says. Right? And along the Afghanistan border, reverse march, we've been ordered to return to Kabul. How'd that stuff work out? Doom's reign is over. It's crumbled. He's lost all his cred. He's lost all his street cred. Even the punks are never going to take orders from Dr. Doom. Namor is just going to return to the sea. But they explicitly call out Zebediah Kilgrave was a petty man, Namor, a user. He may not have deserved this, but at least the threat of the Psycho Prism can never be repeated. They say, good, now we can concentrate on the Purple Man. I am afraid he is beyond that, Archer. It's not how I would have chosen, but with the lives of so many at stake. So they've just straight out justified Namor murdering, which back then was like, would have been a big deal that they even had to justify it like this. Because like good guys did not kill in Marvel Comics. That was just in a Jim Shooter Marvel comic without this kind of justification, without these kind of stakes, right? Without the world being at stake. And so he does. And he gives it up, and it ends on a sort of like, Doom did do some pretty good stuff. But, if you're not free to make your own decisions, blah, 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 blah. Amazing. Emperor Doom. I really love that thing. Whoop. One of my favorites as a kid, and remains so to this day. Guys, I gotta get out of here pretty soon. Let me go back to the comments here for a second. That movie's was for kids from the 90s, just like Stranger Things for the 80s. Are we regressing? Yeah, we are. Or, hopefully an acknowledgement that animation doesn't have to be aimed just at kids to be successful. I don't, you either go to one extreme. It's like adults only animation that has a connotation to it that's a little bit unsavory to some. This is one that I think was fun. This is one that reminds me in tone maybe of if you were in the 60s watching Rocky and Bullwinkle, and you wouldn't have gotten a lot of the jokes that were snuck in there. Triumph and Torment. Not Coffee Breath. Great point. I've got Triumph and Torment right here. I got the original. I got the first printing. I'm going to bring that in, I think, maybe on the next stream and talk about it a little bit. What do I want to do now? I got to get out of here, guys. But I've been thinking about watching some cartoons. What do you guys think? I was thinking, there's a lot of cartoons that would be really fun and awesome to watch together. Why don't we give one? I got one we'll give a try together, because I have a theory that in our modern world, we're missing something. We're essentially missing something that people of my era had growing up, right? Well, if I think back to my youth, I think about how I was, oh my gosh, I would get up in the morning and I would get on my bicycle and go deliver 50 pounds of newspapers door to door around the block. And I'd come home and watch Popeye cartoons, right? Because Popeye cartoons were everywhere. A big part of that, I didn't realize, was that they were public domain. So they were used in a lot of like afternoon and morning kids shows where they just play cartoons and they didn't have to pay for them. And so neither do I. So let's check out one of those public domain cartoons right now. Watch along with me. It's not that long. Let's go. Let's check out some Popeye, shall we? This is great stuff by Fleischer Animation Studios. They did the those awesome Superman cartoons that are also in the public domain. Like, somebody messed up on the paperwork over at Fleischer, and a lot of some of these gems of animation have slipped into the public domain.
Well, guess I'll dig up a little business around here. Hope nobody's looking.
Beautiful. Capitalism in action, creating demand. Demand creation.
When the cleanup.
What I like about these cartoons is they would make these nice little tight loops and reuse them, but not in a cheap way. I don't know. It works really well. I think Bluto is just an unsung movie star.
When the cleanup.
Not today, thank you.
What do you mean? Why not today? Thank you.
Because I'm gonna wash them. That's why not today, thank you. I wonder how that money up here on the 20th floor.
That guy thinks he's gonna ruin my record, hey. Hey, let me show you the real way to wash a window.
I'll wash them. Oh, right
Think
in
this-
the eye. Oh, I can't see. Oh, you're out of date with that stuff. Let me show you how we modern.
Pretty sure this is the great Jack Mercer.
Yeah. Hey, Shrimp, get an eye full of this. There's some real window cleaner.
You don't say. You look like a monkey on a string to me.
Pardon me.
Wow. Hey, I'm taking it out.
These are some of the great visual sight gags. I love this perspective shots down the building.
Will you get a load of this with me suspenders? I'll show you how to do it. I do it in swing time, you see.
Well, what's this?
Yeah, I'm watching it, but of course I don't see anything yet.
Oh.
I'm falling. Oh. Whoa. Hey, my head's flutter. Can't get up. Oh, hey, get me out of here. Hey, you give me a pain in the neck, you.
Why, you little go ahead and I'll try it out.
Beautiful.
Smack you in the nose. Oh. Yeah. Oh, right. I'll show you. Where do I take the monkey out of?
This is the beauty of Popeye. It's an orgy of violence.
Oh, hey, what am I doing hanging around here? Wait till I get oh. Hey, what's your finger? Oh, hey, let me up. Wow. Hang on.
So you're a window washer, hey? Now do you want me to clean your windows, huh?
Okay, now this is the money shot of the orgy.
Wait till I get my hands on you. Hey, you man. Let me get my Here he comes.
That is a thing of beauty. He feels so real and physical.
Hang on to your hat, whammo. You're washed up. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
Oh, man. All right. Thanks for joining me on Danger Room. I don't know. Is that lazy content to just play a Popeye cartoon? Call me lazy if you will, folks. But I'm a lazy man. I'm a lonely man. That's the name of this song. This is not public domain, but this is licensed under a Creative Commons license, and you can find this on SoundCloud. I'll put a link in the description below. This guy also did a great Wonder Woman version. Thanks for checking us out. Check me out. I think I generated a few clips that I can play later in the week, so check me out next time.